I think we're conflating the fact that Putin is not a nice person, that yes, he does not like Hillary Clinton. He loathes the U.S. for many reasons, including the expansion of NATO. But I think we're conflating that with evidence and a conclusion that meant that he cultivated Trump and intervened in the election. I think those two things are different.
That's your view, and it would be great if you could go to Moscow, go to Kiev, go to the post-Soviet world, talk to people from the Russian opposition, talk to human rights activists, talk to journalists whose colleagues have been murdered, and perhaps understand a little bit better the kind of state that Vladimir Putin's Russia is. I think you'd be doing yourself a service, and you'd be doing your listeners a service.
I don't think I've countered anything you said about the state of Vladimir Putin's Russia. The issue under discussion today has been whether there was collusion, the topic of your book.
Yeah, I know, but you're clearly a kind of collusion rejectionist. I'm not kind of sure what evidence, short of Trump and Putin in the sauna together, would convince you. Clearly nothing would convince you.
But again, but again, well, look, this gets back to the issue. The question is whether there is any evidence so far, and I don't see it. And it looks like Luke has logged off. Is that true? Well, we've lost Luke Hardig.
Just a few days ago, The Guardian published a completely unfounded allegation that Assange and Manafort, Paul Manafort, met a series of times over the span of a few years, most importantly in 2016, just before Manafort joined the Trump team. And they did so without any tangible evidence, citing unnamed sources and unpublished intelligence documents. I'm going to read the entire article here and break it down as we go, because it's important to openly question here what appears to be a very poor attempt at propaganda. So this is from The Guardian. Manafort held secret talks with Assange in Ecuadorian embassy, sources say. Trump ally met WikiLeaks founder months before emails hacked by Russia were published. So already there, you're reporting these unfounded claims without any evidence as fact. The headline is saying, you know, there was a fact that these two met, sources say, you know, that small caveat. And then the subheadline says they definitely met months before WikiLeaks published emails hacked by Russia. And that's never been proven either. So just right off the bat there, that's going to give you a taste of how this whole article shapes up. Donald Trump's former campaign manager Paul Manafort held secret talks with Julian Assange inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London and visited around the time he joined Trump's campaign, The Guardian has been told. The Guardian has been told, not by who, what position they hold, you know, no way to vet the person. They've just been told that. Sources have said Manafort went to see Assange in 2013, 2015, and in spring of 2016 during the period when he was made a key figure in Trump's push for the White House. So already the reoccurring theme is they met right when Manafort was joining the Trump team. So already, just reading those few sentences, I'm already getting the theme here that it's trying to be tied to Russiagate. They're trying to go back to this original claim of Russiagate, of Donald Trump and Russia having a collusion to throw an election. There's no evidence of that. There's a ton of evidence of the primary election being rigged, but there's no evidence of Russia and Donald Trump colluding. In a statement, Manafort denied meeting Assange. He said, quote, "I have never met Julian Assange or anyone connected to him. I have never been contacted by anyone connected to WikiLeaks, either directly or indirectly. I have never reached out to Assange or WikiLeaks on any matter," end quote. It is unclear why Manafort would have wanted to see Assange and what was discussed. but the last apparent meeting is likely to come under scrutiny and could interest Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor who is investigating alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Do you see what they did there? They like softened you up for to swallow their narrative. So they say in one breath, it's unclear, we have no idea why they would have met if the meeting even did exist. But it could definitely interest Robert Mueller and the Russia camp and the Russia investigation. So they're saying we have no idea why they met, but in the next sentence they're saying they met because of Russia. A well-placed source has told The Guardian that Manafort went to see Assange around March 2016. Months later, WikiLeaks released a stash of Democratic emails stolen by Russian intelligence officers. So more of it right there. They're trying to tie Manafort meeting with Assange to then the emails being released, as if Julian Assange had all this damning information on the most powerful country in the world rigging elections, and he waited for the go-ahead from Donald Trump and Paul Manafort, which is just ridiculous on its head. And then once again, the uncritical reporting of emails being stolen by Russian intelligence officers. There's no proof of that. First off, there's different sets of leaks. There's, the DNC emails, there's John Podesta emails, there's like different sets of these leaks or hacks, however you want to look at it. And one of the things that the media likes to do is just bunch them all together into one mega hack, which isn't the truth. They like to just all throw them together into one pot and then say that Russian intelligence officers did it. So, in fact, there was multiple document dumps, and there's no proof that it was Russian intelligence officers. The evidence there mainly lies on an acrylic keyboard showing up in one of these hacking procedures, supposedly. And if you know anything about computers or the CIA, you could make a fake breadcrumb trail to lead to someone else with technology. So there's been no real evidence, and all the small little bits and pieces of evidence that come out aren't really evidence. They're just, these anecdotal stories that are cherry-picked and designed to keep this Russian boogeyman hysteria going. But let's keep reading. Manafort, 69, denies involvement in the hack and says the claim is, quote, 100% false, end quote. His lawyers initially declined to answer The Guardian's questions about the visits. In a series of tweets, WikiLeaks and Assange and Manafort had not met. Assange described the story as a hoax. Manafort was jailed this year and was thought to have become a star cooperator in the Mueller inquiry. But on Monday, Mueller said Manafort had repeatedly lied to the FBI despite agreeing to cooperate 2 months ago in a plea deal. According to a court document, Manafort had committed, quote, crimes and lies on a variety of subject matters, end quote. His defense team says he believes what he has told Mueller to be truthful, and he has not violated his deal. Manafort's visit to the embassy took place, here's where it gets ridiculous, took place a year after Assange sought asylum inside. 2 sources said, so now they're revving it up. 2 sources. And I don't know if you noticed before, but they said something like, oh, well-placed source. So they're going to say something vague like a source, but now they're adding these little snippets here and there, these little extras to make you feel like the source is more real and realistic. 2 sources. A well-placed source. It's just bullshit. A separate internal document written by Ecuador's Senan intelligence agency and seen by The Guardian, lists Paul Manafort as one of several well-known guests. It also mentions, quote, Russians, end quote. So now they're going to cite an Ecuadorian intelligence document that says Paul Manafort and Russians were there. But they're not going to show you that document. And all of the logs at the embassy show that Paul Manafort was never there. Julian Assange is like one of the most surveilled people in the entire United Kingdom, and London is like the most surveilled city in the United Kingdom. So I don't know how there isn't a picture or a video or some kind of proof that Paul Manafort has been there. If he was there, there would be evidence. And then, just the blatant drop of Russians in there to make it more scary. Ooh, tied to Putin. It's just ridiculous. According to the sources, Manafort returned to the embassy in 2015. He paid another visit in the spring of 2016, turning up alone around the time Trump named him as a convention manager. The visit is tentatively dated to March. So you don't even know when he was there, but supposedly you've seen a document recording about when he was there. That doesn't make any sense. Sometime around March, according to the document that says Paul Manafort and Russians had been seeing Julian Assange. Ridiculous. The secret document that no one's seen. Manafort's 2016 visit to Assange lasted about 40 minutes, one source said, adding that the American was casually dressed when he exited the embassy, wearing sandy-colored chinos, a cardigan, and a light-colored shirt. What the fuck? What kind of extra-ass random details are those? Who adds those kind of random details? I don't know. That's really strange to me. It's like, did they have someone around March of 2015 walking around who looks kind of like Paul Manafort dressed in that? Is that why they named all those clothes? So they could turn up some random surveillance of Paul Manafort in some pub in London or something? I don't understand. But let's keep reading. Visitors normally register with embassy security guards and show their passports. Sources in Ecuador, however, say Manafort was not logged. Embassy staff were only aware later of the potential significance of Manafort's visit and his political role with Trump. It is understood. What? So you're just saying that you have this secret document that you can't show anyone that shows that Paul Manafort and Russians were there, and then next you're talking about how normally people have to log in and show their passport when they go into the embassy, but somehow Manafort wasn't logged, and the embassy staff, I guess, who didn't log him in, didn't know till later that he was a deep, dark Trump operative, and that is understood. This is just such a strange way to word it. Seems like just a complete fucking lie, doesn't it? The revelation could shed new light on the sequence of events in the run-up to summer 2016 when WikiLeaks published tens of thousands of emails hacked by the GRU, Russia's military intelligence agency. See more uncritical reporting of rumor and not fact. Hillary Clinton has said the hack contributed to her defeat. So why does he write Hillary Clinton has said the hack contributed to her defeat right after claiming that the Russian intelligence is the one who hacked and disseminated the emails? Maybe it's because there's absolutely zero evidence that these memes and these emails and this Russian intervention or hacking or whatever you want to say it is had any fucking effect on the election. There's zero evidence that had any correlation to Hillary Clinton losing. So what do they write there? They write, Hillary Clinton has said that the hack contributed to her defeat. Not this evidence, these polls, this information, this study, none of that Hillary Clinton said. The previous unreported Manafort-Assange connection is likely to be of interest to Mueller, who has been investigating possible contacts between WikiLeaks and the associate of Trump, including the political lobbyist Roger Stone and Donald Trump Jr. I don't even want to get into that Roger Stone shit. Let's just keep going. One key question is when the Trump campaign was aware of the Kremlin's hacking operation and what, if anything, it did to encourage it. Trump has repeatedly denied collusion. Earlier this year, Mueller indicted 12 GRU intelligence officers for carrying out the hack, which began in March 2016. Caveat there. The legal counsel for those 12 intelligence officers who got indicted for, doing their job, which is trying to hack other countries, they pressed forward in the court case, and they wanted to go to discovery, and they wanted to see the evidence that Robert Mueller had. And guess what? The FBI and Robert Mueller declined to do that because there is no evidence. In June of that year, WikiLeaks emailed the GRU via an intermediary. So they didn't email the GRU. They emailed someone else who you are claiming is an intermediary. Emailed it via an intermediary seeking DNC material after failed attempts. Vladimir Putin's spies sent the documents in mid-July to WikiLeaks as an encrypted attachment. I roll. I'm not going to beat a dead horse talking about the way they report things. According to sources, Manafort's acquaintance with Assange goes back at least 5 years to at least 2012 or 13, when the American was working in Ukraine and advising its Moscow-friendly president, Viktor Yanukovych. Why Manafort might have sought out Assange in 2013 is unclear. During this period, the veteran consultant was involved in black operations against Yanukovych's chief political rival, Yulia Tymoshenko, whom Yanukovych jailed. Manafort ran an extensive lobbying operation featuring European former politicians. He flew frequently from the U.S. to Ukraine's capital, Kiev, usually via Frankfurt, but sometimes through London. Flight records seen by The Guardian show. Oh, they're trying to connect him now. Manafort is currently jailed in Virginia. In August, a jury convicted him of crimes arising from his decade-long activities in Ukraine. They include large-scale money laundering and failure to pay U.S. tax. Nothing about collusion or hacking elections. Manafort pleaded guilty to further charges in order to avoid a second trial in Washington. As well as accusing him of lying on Monday, the special counsel moved to set a date for Manafort to be sentenced. One person familiar with WikiLeaks said Assange was motivated to damage the Democrats because he believed a future Trump administration would be less likely to seek his extradition on possible charges of espionage. This fate had hung over Assange since 2010, when he released confidential U.S. State Department cables. It contributed to his decision to take refuge in the embassy. So then they just make up a fake source saying that Julian Assange is now partisan and pro-Republican because he didn't want to be extradited. And then in the same breath, they're saying the threat of him being extradited to the United States or being a publisher only contributed to his decision to take refuge in the embassy. It's the only fucking reason he took refuge in the... Why else are you taking refuge in an embassy? Because you're about to be extradited to the United States, not for any other reason. According to the dossier written by former MI6 officer Chris Steele, Manafort was at the center of a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between the Trump campaign and Russia's leadership. The two sides had a mutual interest in defeating Clinton, Steele wrote, whom Putin hated and feared. So now they're referring to the publicly debunked Steele dossier, which the Clinton campaign paid an ex-British intelligence officer to pay a bunch of Russians to tell them what they want to hear about Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Almost the exact same thing as when Donald Trump Jr. went to meet with a Russian lawyer to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. It's the same thing. But I digress. In a memo written soon after the DMC emails were published, Steele said, quote, "The hacking operation has been conducted with the full knowledge and support of Trump and senior members of his campaign team," end quote. How are you making claims like that without extraordinary evidence? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. As a candidate Trump warmly welcomed the dump of DNC emails by Assange in October 2016. He declared, "I love WikiLeaks." Trump's comments came after WikiLeaks released a second cache of emails seized from the email account of John Podesta, Clinton's campaign chairman. The Trump White House subsequently sent out mixed messages over Assange and his legal fate in 2017, and behind the scenes, Assange tried to reach a deal with Trump's Department of Justice that might see him avoid U.S. prison. In May 2017, Manafort flew to Ecuador to hold talks with the country's president, Lenin Moreno. The discussions days before Moreno was sworn in and before Manafort was indicted, were ostensibly about a large-scale Chinese investment. However, one source in Quito suggests that Manafort also discreetly raised Assange's plight. Another senior foreign ministry source said he was skeptical Assange had mentioned. At the time, Moreno was expected to continue support of him. Last week, a court filing released in error suggested that the U.S. Justice Department had secretly charged Assange with criminal offense. Writing by the U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney Kellen Dwyer, the document did not say what Assange had been charged with or when the alleged offense took place. So there's the only drop of truth in the entire article is in the very last paragraph. The second to last sentence of the entire article is the only truth. This is all written by this guy who is making his political career, and I say political career, or I should say journalistic career or news acting career or whatever kind of, he's a careerist. His book Collusion is just full of bullshit. He's making money off of the catnip that is the Trump-Russia story for the liberal elite, for the neocons, for the brunch and mimosa crowds, for the professionals who have nothing economically at stake. He makes catnip stories for them about Trump's lack of civility, lack of presidential nature, lack of, expanded vocabulary, whatever. So Luke Harding is a complete joke.